Status matches, approvals, and denials on episode 206 of the Milenomics² podcast.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sam Simon.
And I'm Robert Dwyer.
And this is the Milenomics² podcast on the Milenomics Podcast Network. Robert, you've been traveling a lot. Let's get right into this show. Can't wait to hear about your trips and everything else this week.
Yeah, you would think that this status match opportunity that came on the heels of Delta maybe devaluating, disrespecting their loyal customers would be a good thing for someone who travels a lot. But this one seems really targeted at cities where Delta has a presence and Alaska and JetBlue are trying to make inroads. But let's break these down a little bit. I mean, do you think these are exciting for people in general or only people in certain markets and situations? Or is there more than meets the eye or less than meets the eye here?
Oh, wow. I mean, we could do a whole show on that question, Robert. You might be one of the people that these two status matches target the best, I think, because historically, if you go back and look at our entire catalog of conversations, you have flown Alaska from Boston to San Diego many times or back, right?
Yeah, true.
And you fly JetBlue all the time.
Quite
and
a bit.
For someone like you, I think these could be exciting if you have planned travel coming up on those two airlines. If you don't, you might be spinning your wheels to do a status match right now where there's no discernible benefit, actually, like a tangible benefit other than you get to send a bunch of emails and screenshots and follow up on some of these. So where are you at on it and in general and then in your personal attempt here on these status matches?
Yeah, you've captured the arc of excitement and then disappointment and then frustration very well. In general, status matches seem exciting. You have status with one, and then you'll get status matched to everybody else. Why would you even bother, collecting status on a bunch of different airlines or hotels? Just get it with one, and then you can status match everywhere. But the airlines and hotels are smart about that. They don't just give you every benefit that would have come with gaining that organically on its own. They cap the duration of it. And, in both these cases, the more I peered into what you got, the more frustrated I got. So let's break down what exactly these include. Let's start with JetBlue first. It's capped at 30,000 applicants. I don't know if they've hit that yet or if they've said they'd hit that. They said they pulled down the link that we have here to match. But the status only matches until the end of 2023. So that's only, 3 months here, even if you get matched instantly. Yeah. So that is kind of not great. But if you have a Barclays card, which is a problem for me, being shut down for life by Barclays, it gets extended all the way through next year. So that seems like a pretty easy thing to do if you can get a Barclays credit card. So, again, somebody who lives in one of the markets that JetBlue serves a lot and can get a Barclays card, it does seem like a pretty good deal. Well, so first of all, you go to the landing page that describes JetBlue Mosaic, and I think it could be a little bit more clear. I think their program is new. You look at Delta's documentation about what is included in Medallion, how it all works. They've covered a lot of situations, and it's very complicated. We were just talking about electric vehicles offline, Tesla dropping prices and things like that. And you go to Tesla's website and you start to see kind of how there's a whole ecosystem about how Americans deal with cars. We expect deals. We expect service. We expect to be able to trade them in. We expect financing from the company. You think of all that has gone in to make a new viable car company. It took those guys a lot of work, right? So that's what I feel like with JetBlue here, trying to match what Delta's doing. You're like, oh, that's cute. You think you have a status program on par with the complexity of what Delta's invented? Let's start peering into your program here. I mean, some of the documentation is pretty scarce there, and I had to ping them a lot on Twitter for information. So let's start there. What do you think about that? Are you bringing a knife to a gunfight thinking you can compete with Delta in terms of status?
I'm so skeptical of all of the status, Robert, that when you say that phrase, I don't know if you mean in a good way or in a bad way.
Yeah, good point.
I don't. Our offline joke has been, can JetBlue match Delta? And then Delta bungles all kinds of stuff. So I think they can match them, and I think that they can potentially do just as good as Delta is doing, but the details are not there. And the first of those that you and I were talking about is companion upgrades to more space seats. I think that's a really tangible benefit that people like at low level and mid-level status. For almost every airline, you can just book and then move into a seat that normally without status you'd have to pay for. And it does say you get that benefit, but it doesn't say if it applies to your companions. And so you started digging on that first point, I think, because Hey, Robert, do you fly alone or do you fly with other people?
Yeah, almost always with other people. I flew just last week with them, 3 people, and I had to split my son off into his own record locator. And it created this big scene at the check-in counter when they said, "Oh, we only have 1 upgrade, and there's 2 of you." I'm like, "Well, actually, there's 3 of us." And I'm like, "Does one of you want the upgrade?" I'm like, "Oh, this whole thing is just so goofy." Like I'm intentionally splitting.
That was
up.
Delta or JetBlue?
That was Delta on the way back. And so JetBlue is up to 8 people on one itinerary, which is, I would have to think, industry leading. I mean, on one hand, they don't have a first-class cabin on most of their flights to debate about, but the benefit of getting those even more space seats could be nice in some cases if they're available. They charge for them, and it's a nice perk, I guess. Yeah.
I'll argue that you will get more benefit out of that than the Mint upgrades, even if Mint upgrades that were space available were on every flight. The opportunity for a family of 4, like in my case, to move up to a very small cabin that's going to be sold out from under you, I'm talking Delta or JetBlue, Robert, is small.
Yeah.
And if I don't want to get split up, I think that the more space seats and the other more tangible benefits are really the benefits you're going to interact with most. And so I think they can match Delta. And look, they're exceeding Delta on that one specific first point we're talking about. Now, is the day-to-day operations of that airline something that you're comfortable flying versus Delta? I mean, personally, I am. How about you?
Yeah, I flew to Pittsburgh last weekend, JetBlue in one direction, Delta in the other. Both flights were delayed. Both flights did a poor job of updating on how and why the flights were delayed. One of the airlines used duct tape to close an overhead bin, and I'll let you guess which one it was, and it might surprise you. There's buffoonery everywhere. Nothing works. Nobody wants to make an excellent airline, it seems like, or there's not a cost benefit to doing so. So here we are. I wouldn't put money on Delta always being more reliable than JetBlue. All right, so if the time is right, I will fly JetBlue and take my chances. And it hurts sometimes, but it's rarely a situation where I'm standing there at the JetBlue gate and I see the Delta flight next to it going out on time. There's a bunch of things that can cause delays with airlines. So no, I don't think that any one airline is that much more reliable to it than I would make a decision based on perceived reliability or a track record of reliability. But let's talk about these Move to Mint certificates. This was another one. So you get to Mosaic 3, which you get matched to from Platinum, and that gives you 4 Move to Mint upgrade certificates. And I was unclear. Someone says there's something called a Move to Mint upgrade certificate instrument. Sounds great to me. I'll book a cheap ticket. Well, you can't book a super cheap ticket. You have to avoid the basic economy. Okay, fine. I can still pay $200 or $300 and get into Mint cabin for, I don't know, $600, $900 of value or something like that. But there's restrictions on those. You can't get the upgrade at the time of booking, which would be really nice. You get it space available maybe 3 days prior to check-in. And the certificates expire at the end of the year for the ones you get right now. So you'd have to fly in the next 3 months. Probably won't be doing that on a route that has Mint. So of no good. But you also
with open seats.
Yeah, with open seats, and you have to take your chances. You might wind up and not be able to use it at all. And you can only use 2 per itinerary, even if you have 3 or more certificates. I don't know why they're capping it at that. That seems silly. Like if you give you 4 certificates, you should be able to use them all in one flight if you have a family of 4. But those are the terms, and you really got to dig in to find that information. But I think that's a big limitation. I think a reasonable person would say Move to Mint would be, at the time of booking, but that's not the case.
Yeah, I guess maybe I could see a path where they're crafting that rule and saying, we want more members to experience this upgrade, not just more of our members' parties, maybe.
Yeah.
But and then you've got to decide, again, we just talked about that 2 minutes ago. Do you want to split up your party and have 2 people in Mint and 2 people not in Mint? And I don't, but, some people do. And I think all of it is like, it's really telling because they can hand out something that's a benefit. And if you don't actually get any use from it, then it doesn't cost them anything.
Right.
And they probably know their routes better than we do, Robert. And their load levels for the next 3-month period in Mint are probably so high that they can calculate relatively easily how many of these upgrade certificates are going to be out there.
Yeah. No, it's at the end of it, the intent with this is to impress you with this other airline that maybe you didn't consider before. And, I was pinging them, hey.
I've never heard of you, JetBlue.
Right,
I've been on Delta in Boston forever. You have flights to where right. That's so silly, isn't it?
Well, I was asking them, hey, I'm flying with you guys tomorrow. It would be nice to be able to start the process now of earning tiles,
No,
getting the
huh?
upgrades. You're like, oh no, it's good things to come to those who wait. Ha ha. Like just click the button. Like, what is the problem? The match finally did come through. I think Alaska, actually, I haven't heard of anybody getting matched by Alaska yet. They say 2 to 4 weeks or something like that. Months? I don't know. It's going to take forever. I did get matched. Someone from JetBlue called my phone and said, welcome to the party. Welcome. We're going to be loving Mosaic. But before I'm done dunking on them, get this one. Mosaic 3 includes Founders Card Blue. Now, we've talked about Founders Card before, and Founders Card I think of as being something that business owners use to get status with airlines and hotels and discounts with airlines and hotels and other things. But in this case, by getting Mosaic 3, you're supposed to get a Founders Card membership for a year is what the terms and conditions say. But how bizarre is that? Airlines are now doling out instruments to get status with other things. Like, how crazy is that?
Again, right? That's the cost of that is zero. If you dig into our show and our conversation about that, I think one of us, me, paid like $99 for a year of Founders Card, and you got it for free. And so it's one of those situations where they're going to say, hey, you get Founders Card Blue, which is probably a lower free tier that doesn't include certain things, like the free one that you had before. And, you don't get any benefit from it, but you go, oh, I got Founders Card? Wow, great. And it's like an extra little thing they can hand you that you don't even get to use.
You would think it would be so good, right? When I heard it's Founders Card Blue.
Oh, not even?
No. I thought Founders Card Blue would be a special thing for JetBlue Mosaic members. And because it's called Blue, JetBlue, I don't know, Blue.
Oh, right, sure.
Yeah, but it's not.
I thought it was just a coincidence.
No, well, I don't think there's such a thing. I don't know if such a thing exists. I went and clicked the link in the email that I got welcoming me to this. You even had to dig around for that. And I activated it with a different email address than I'd previously used to interact with Founders Card. And they sent me an email back right away within a few hours saying, we noticed that you've had a Founders Card before. So what would be best in your case is to renew that for $295. Don't you think that's a great deal? And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, where does it say anywhere that that's the case? Not that I really wanted. I was just willing to let it go. But
oh my gosh.
The email tone was so smug. I really wanted to take the person up on this. I said, I thought this was a free perk that came with getting Mosaic status. Now you're telling me I'll pass. And they came back and said, oh, no, it's clearly laid out in the terms and conditions. I'm like, no, I don't see that anywhere. It's not at all. I mean, I'm sure that if somebody dug around, they could find it. But in the most obvious 2 or 3 places that you could look, it doesn't say anything about it not being matched. So it's not even a benefit. And I think it's just egg on JetBlue's face to partner up with these clowns. I mean, that's just ridiculous, right? I mean, not making
yeah,
clear.
No, it is.
And if you talk to JetBlue, I'm sure they would say something else, but I don't have any patience for pursuing it. So I guess another strike, that's something that wasn't as good as I hoped it would have been. And at the end of it, I'm thinking, I can't get the credit card probably. Do I want to get 24 tiles by the end of 2023? That's $2,400 spent on JetBlue flights, vacations, or Paisly. The crazy thing where you book overpriced stuff at the time of booking a JetBlue trip. Forget it, right? There's no way. I can't see my way to make this making sense. It's going to be 3 months. Maybe I use it once or twice at most, or more likely zero. I'm just not impressed at this point.
That's unfortunate, Robert. It really is. I mean, I'm thinking of like the credit card side of it. You can't get the credit card because you've been shut down in the past. I think that's a place to try to push on for sure, because if you get a credit card, then you can extend the status. I think if I get into like more obscure opportunities, Paisly has the hotel portal. Is that correct?
Yeah. And I think it wouldn't be too hard if I had an expensive hotel stay coming up to book it through there. But when I looked, it didn't have the hotels I wanted. It didn't have the hotels, the rooms within those hotels I wanted. The prices were absolutely, obviously inflated. Like it's all going down, like you say, a big rat hole of wasting a bunch of time, clicking a bunch of emails, taking a bunch of screenshots. At the end of it, you're like, why did I do this?
It bugs me because here's a thing that they're going to extend to people that they want to be their most loyal customer. And I do believe that's what they want, but it sounds like they want their most loyal customers to be the ones that pay them for things that no one else is kind of crazy or silly enough to pay them for, overpriced hotels and Founders Card memberships and all of these other things, 2 extra Mint seats for the 2 that you get upgraded to for the rest of your party. It's frustrating to me when that's the optics of a situation, because I think I can see how that works. I'm very loyal to you. I love you. You're the best airline for me. So I'll kind of just believe that whatever you tell me is the best thing for me, and I won't look around. And so I appreciate that you're extremely rational when you approach situations as a consumer, Robert, and you're not willing to just kind of take it at surface level like, oh, okay, I get Founders Card. well, great,
Yeah.
But that Alaska one, do you want to talk more about that one?
Yeah, real quick, because I think it's interesting that both of these tie in credit card approval.
Really an interesting angle. Like, you can have a taste, and by the way, get our card.
Yeah.
Are they an airline or a credit card or a bank first?
It's so much. At some point, there will be a merger here. Within the next decade, I predict it. Some bank will merge with some airline. They can just make it one big party. But
American Express on the side of the plane? That would be awesome, wouldn't it? CF Frost would love that.
Exactly. Just make it all clear to what really is going on here, who's paying for what. But I pulled some stunt there. Well, so in both of these, there was some conjecture, especially in the Alaska situation, that you couldn't have Alaska's policies that you get one match per lifetime per account. And so that disqualifies me. I have been status matched to Alaska, not once, but twice on the same account. So I don't know what that tells me. Am I more likely to get matched a third time, or will they find one of the two times that I've previously been matched to Alaska? But here we are. I had an idea, though. Every time I apply for a credit card, I already had a business Bank of America Alaska credit card. Every time I apply for one, I've mentioned on the show that they create a new Alaska account for me.
Oh, yes.
And when I call Alaska, they say, well, just use the new account. I'm like, use the new account? I've had the old account for 10 years and I've got a bunch of history with it. No, just use the new account. I was like, oh, okay. I wrestled with them. I got it overcome. And I was pumping it back into my original account, my longstanding account. But I was thinking I could actually use that to my advantage here. Have them open a new account for me. Use that one for the match. It has no record of any prior matches. But wouldn't you know it? I applied for a Bank of America Alaska business card. They didn't create a new account for me this time. They got it right. They pumped it back into the old one. No. And then I got a lame 50,000 offer instead of it was recently at 70,000. So that was a big waste. And it's hard to close Bank of America accounts. They're a hard bank to deal with. I mean, they'll say they close it, it disappears off your account, and then a few weeks later, they send you to collections, or a few months later, they send you to collections because you haven't paid the $95 fee that was clanging around that they didn't refund or whatever. Bank of America is a tricky bank to work with. But let's talk about Alaska on the merits of their match. It's pretty generous for platinum. You get up to MVP Gold 100K, which is their top status.
Nice.
And easier to get that Bank of America card, for me anyways, much easier. And I'm thinking, what are the airlines where there's a big Delta presence and a big Alaska presence? That's a little bit different than Boston and JFK with Delta and JetBlue overlapping. I'm thinking Seattle. I mean, would LA qualify for that?
I think so. I mean, more than JetBlue, though. JetBlue out of LA is terrible, Robert.
Yeah.
They've just been shrinking that route map smaller and smaller and smaller. Alaska and Delta are both viable options, I would say, to Hawaii as well and to Mexico. They both try to use LA as a jumping off point for both of those destinations. So yeah, LA.
Yeah. I just don't know if there's a lot of Alaska upside. Maybe I could use it for some flight to San Diego and get upgrades, but I've tinkered with that program before, and those upgrade certificates are very capped. The flights that they're available on are not always there. They say they'll upgrade you up to 120 hours with that 100K stats. And so I think that if there were available seats, you would get upgraded. I haven't been impressed with their first class product. I haven't been impressed with flying them much. So I don't even know if I really want that, but there's just not enough flights here that would make it valuable. But then I wonder, well, would it be nice to have AA or, one world status? Was there some situation where you're flying to Japan, you're in a first class lounge because of that status? Or, I don't have any frequent flyer account with AA at all. So would it be nice to have some one world status because of Alaska? They're a proper member now.
But again, these are really thin use cases. Here's where I like this though, Robert, and correct me if I'm wrong here. Both JetBlue and Alaska, one big change in the past few years has been no change fees. You can cancel these flights. There are refundable, cancelable flights. And so I haven't thought of it because I don't hold any status, but you could conceivably book and then wait for that 120 hours out and then see if you're upgraded at 120 hours out for Alaska, for example. And if you're not, because there's no space in first class, you hold something like a Delta pre-booked situation and take that flight. So the negative of everything I just said is it's taking a situation that's already complicated enough, which is our multiple bookings that we do, and you're layering on top of it space available upgrades and close-in cancellations. And I don't know if that's better or worse. What do you think?
I like the idea. No, I mean, it's that far out is interesting. And my frustration with Delta has been that when I have been upgraded the past couple weeks flying with them, it's been day of, moments before the flight takes off or 2 hours before. And, I had JetBlue and Delta double booked on the way back. and I canceled JetBlue the day before because I knew the Delta scheduled departure time was going to work better for me. And I still got a notification from JetBlue that it was time to check in. I was like, oh man, I forgot to cancel those flights. Good thing I got that notification. But then I went and looked and actually did cancel the flight. So it can create a significant stress point on the day of departure. If you start doing this 2 or 3 times in each direction, multiple record locators, that's no joke. That's going to be complicated to clean up. And I don't like it, but I do, maybe to tie this whole thing off, for the number of times we fly, I'm just more and more thinking, pay for the first class if you want.
Pay it, yeah.
Just pay it.
Yeah.
Splurge on it.
And here's the other thing. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's the whole story. Just pay it.
Well, I will say this, right? The reason, and this has been true for 10 years or more, but the reason has become more true that your upgrade isn't going to clear is because airlines like money more than they like treating you to a free upgrade. And so the price of that upgrade is going to trend down as they get closer to their upgrade deadline. You're going to see the offer on your account. I mean, I've seen it with United. I've seen it with Delta. I think you just saw it with Delta as well this past week. I've seen it on the time of booking. United wants $2,400 to upgrade you to first class, and a few days before, it's down to $500. It's it never fails that they're going to try and get paid money for those seats before they hand them out to elites, and I think that's the real story, right? Like you said, we don't fly enough for it to really make sense to play this game at a high level, and there's a large number of people in our party, and so the game's harder even when it works. It's maybe not working for all of us. So yeah, just bite the bullet, figure out the best way to pay it, book multiple things, rebook as prices go down, and find yourself a fare that you can live with.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, this silly Delta flight on the way back, it was a regional jet, Pittsburgh to Boston, less than a 2-hour flight. And I could have bought it for 5,000 Delta miles, $50 each way per person. And there's this list of 12. Right? Yeah, the upgrade from main cabin to first. Really no difference on a regional jet. The whole thing is entirely silly. But still, they have all the pomp and circumstance. They have the Comfort Plus. They have the first class upgrade list that you see 12 people on it. And you're 1 and 2, and you get all excited about it. But like, this is so silly. If I wanted those seats in the first place, I should have shorted them up a long time ago for $50 each. It's ridiculous.
Isn't that funny? And you wouldn't, so they're not really even worth that. Yeah.
So true.
Yeah. I mean, what's value, right? If you're not going to pay for it, there's no value. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, let's just move on, Robert. I mean, a great conversation there. We said we could do a whole show on it. Hey, should we close it out?
Absolutely.
All right. Hey, thanks for joining us, and thanks for your support. Really means a lot to both of us and everyone on the Milenomics Podcast Network. If you've got any suggestions for future shows, we'd love to hear from you. Until then, we'll see you on the site.
Thanks, everybody. Catch you next week.